Hey guys, welcome to the channel Dit Commando. My name is Ryan, a former Royal Marines Commando from the United Kingdom, and today we're going to be reacting to why the Japanese were the evilest and most immoral army of World War II. Now, if you're new to my channel, we do quite a lot of military reactions. We've done some reactions on the Japanese before, Hiroshima bomb and all of that kind of stuff. And yeah, there's loads of comments, loads of discussion being generated over the Japanese and how they actually treated people. Were they the most evilest, most immoral army of World War II? Some would suggest so, some would suggest otherwise, but today we're going to find out, that's for sure, guys. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel if you're brand new here. And if you haven't already heard, we are doing a new channel called The Explained Show, where I will myself be creating content for you guys of a similar nature. So please be sure to go check that out. Link will be in the description. Let's go.
Just a foreword before we get into today's video. Despite the vibe this channel gives when discussing the actions of the Japanese in World War II, I must say that I have no ill will toward contemporary Japanese society and all its peoples. I respect the force for good they've become on the world stage and the astounding positive economic impact they've had on a global scale. With that said,
yeah, and just on that one, guys, I'd like to reiterate that myself, you know me, I don't really hold any kind of political side. I'll always be on the fence with this. It's not my place here on YouTube to give you guys my political opinion. I'm not about that, all right? I don't like to cause divide and tension. I like to cause, you know, discussion, healthy discussion, and community. That's what I'm all about. So this in no way, shape, or form reflects my opinions at all, okay?
said, I do not and will not ever rescind my belief that the Japanese were as bad, if not worse than the Nazi Party in World War II,
Whoa,
and make
okay.
these videos to educate people on.
So he instantly came out with such a massive statement there. I'm not too sure how I feel about that, actually. I can't really comment. I don't really know too much about them to say that they're comparable to the Nazis. What do you think? Let me know in the comments.
The mostly unknown and untaught atrocities of the Imperial Japanese Army in their various campaigns. In Imperial Japan, honor was everything, and someone who had lost their honor and displeased their ancestors was treated like an animal and was essentially shunned by society as a whole. This absolute obsession with honor translated tenfold onto the battlefield, and the Japanese came to be known as the most fearless fighting force of World War II. With this fearlessness, however, also came brutality, and an abundance of it too. Anybody who was unfortunate enough to be cornered by the Japanese and forced to surrender could expect years of brutality. It's well known that civilians of China and Southeast Asia were routinely raped and murdered by vile Japanese soldiers, and that civil disobedience in these Japanese-controlled territories was punishable by torture and death.
Right, so that there is hideous. All right, hideous. If you abuse your power, your position as a soldier in any way, shape, or form, especially in that respect where they, you know, went and raped civilians. You're the most evil of the evil in that respect, okay, guys? And that doesn't even hold. I don't even hold a political side on that. That's just pure evil. You don't have to be affiliated with any group to know that that's evil. All right, that is pure evil.
As if it wasn't bad enough for the civilians, the Japanese had a burning hatred for enemies who had decided to surrender instead of die fighting. As many of you know, this led to hard labor, beatings, torture, and malnourishment to such an extreme level that the prisoners of liberated Japanese prison camps were described as looking like those liberated at Auschwitz.
Horrendous.
In addition to this, as we've covered in a previous video, the Japanese also implemented a kill-all order that stated as soon as the first American soldier set foot on the Japanese homeland, all Japanese soldiers would be ordered to behead, stab, burn, or shoot the 100,000 or so remaining Allied troops still in the prison camps.
That's
One
horrendous.
infamous example of Japanese inhumanity toward prisoners in World War II was the Sandokan Death March, which I'll be covering in full sometime soon. Essentially, approximately 2,700 British and Australian troops were forced to march through the steamy jungles of Borneo, only to be shot when they reached their destination. Only 6 men escaped, and only 1 man survived at all. When an influx of new prisoners...
Right. Again, I don't get this. I understand the brutality of war, all right? And it's trained into you to be a certain way on the battlefield. However, there's no honor whatsoever in torture, in sadistic, painful deaths. There's no honor in that whatsoever. It is not the warrior code. So what we're seeing here isn't honor. This isn't what they're all about. All right, they might think that they're standing by honor, but it's not. That's not what honor is. Okay, and if there is hell after life, then these guys will be going to it 100%. You don't do things like that on the battlefield, all right? And you know, professional soldiers aren't about that sadistic kind of killing. They do a job, and most of them regret it to a certain degree if they've ever had to kill people. You know, I've worked with people who've you know, had to do some horrendous things, and at the end of the day, if it's going to plague them at the end of the day. That's what I'm trying to say. So if you're of a sound mind and you're a real human being, then torturing people in that way is going to only torture you unless you really are screwed up mentally.
Prisoners eventually came in to build an airstrip in 1942, the same group of guards would randomly execute groups of prisoners, so there was more rice for the Japanese guards. According to one war crime testimony, a Japanese sergeant told one group of condemned prisoners, "There's no rice, so I'm killing the lot of you today. Is there anything you want to say?" But in my opinion, by far the worst thing the Japanese did were the vivisections they performed on live subjects. As we all know, Unit 731 was the Japanese unit tasked with doing these monstrous experiments overseas. However, what many don't know is that if you were unfortunate enough to be an American airman shot down over Japanese airspace, Japanese universities were happy to use you as a live prac for their students. An infamous example of this was at Kyushu University, where 8 American airmen who were recovered from a B-29 shot down near the end of the war were taken to the anatomy department at the university, where they had their organs ripped out of their body while they were still alive.
Right, I can't actually believe what I'm hearing. This is horrendous. This is absolutely disgusting.
One prisoner was shot in the stomach to give surgeons practice removing bullets, another had parts of his body amputated while he was still alive, and another had one of his lungs removed and then was stitched back up to see what would happen. There were many other stories similar to these atrocities that took place on Japanese soil, and the list of horrible experiments Japanese doctors performed could...
Right, this has got to... So the perpetrator doesn't get away with this scot-free. I know you might think he does, but the perpetrator can't. That person has to be haunted. Somewhere in that evil soul is an element of human still. I truly believe that you can't completely dissolve human nature. And the key word is that is completely. You can't completely dissolve human nature. So they must go to bed at night, horrified by their own actions. Horrified. I actually can't believe what I'm hearing. I didn't know this kind of stuff went on. I know they were brutal, but...
Could go on for hours. However, I think we'll leave it at that, and I hope this video gave you a good idea to the level of sadism the Japanese were at in World War II. And as per usual, I want to know what you think. What are your opinions on the Japanese in World War II? Do you know of anyone who was a prisoner of theirs? Let me know in the comments section below. And just before you go, guys...
Right, guys, that's... It's not often I do reactions which actually make me a little bit angry. But that's made me angry, man. That information that I've received off that video has made me angry. Again, it's important not to kind of tarnish everyone with the same brush. These are just the soldiers we're talking about doing horrendous acts. But what scares me is how the mentality can be changed so brutally on a national level. In some cases internationally, to where people can do inhumane things to other human beings. How does one get from point A to point B and that transition in the middle? How did people get from A to B where human being born, human being doing horrendous crimes? It's the bit in between, guys, that that scares me, to be fair. Scares me more than the actual acts and atrocities. Because this is called conditioning, and you've just got to be careful what information goes into your brain and what you and what information you digest. So, yeah, I always say this: please like, share, and subscribe to the channel in support of me. That video, yeah, it's not really good in the sense of a happy, upbeat one, but in terms of the information, it was a good video, guys. So please support me and like, share, and subscribe. If you want to become a member, please press the join button. Hit the link in the description. I just want to say thank you to each and every one of the members so far for supporting the channel. You are helping me do this every single day. So thanks, guys. You're all legends. Peace.